Let's make a dirty martini. So unlike the dry martini, dirty is something that we're adding to it. It's not that the drier it is or the dirtier it is, the less something has. Here, the dirtier something is, the more it's gonna have. And what makes the martini dirty is that brine. Last episode we talked about the Gibson. It was a little bit of a gateway drug to get us to that dirty martini. There's going to be more brine in a dirty martini than there was in the Gibson. We're going to talk about that shortly. But basically, dirty martinis, again, interesting history. As early as the 1900s, there was a bartender muddling olives at the bottom of a martini glass. Apparently, FDR was all about this muddled olive martini. And I'm not sure if it was called a martini or not, but this cocktail with the muddled olives, that was his drink. The modern form of the dirty martini didn't come around until the late 70s, early 80s, and really hit their stride in the 80s and 90s. 90s was a solid time. Mid 80s is when people started talking about the blue cheese olive in a dirty martini. Not necessary. It does add a certain degree, a certain something to it, what the French call it, a certain, I don't know what, but it definitely makes a difference, and it's unique. But today we're going to go with your standard olive. Now, speaking of standard olives, I always say stick with your Spanish olives, your Queen olives, your Manzanilla olives. Don't go for, and I'm going to butcher the name, but the Castelgrano. It's the bright green buttery olives. You don't want those. Those have a very mild flavor. That buttery flavor, it just doesn't work, in my opinion at least, for that martini. Other cocktails that actually goes really nicely in, there's a spritz actually that includes those olives, and it's a nice addition, the butteriness of the olive to the wine and the Amaro. But we'll talk about that when we get to spritzes and Amaros. But right now, like I said, we're talking about the dirty martini. I'm sticking with your classic olive, right? Your Queen olive, your Spanish Manzanilla olive. I always like a big olive as opposed to the little tiny ones, but in a pinch they work. You don't have to go out and buy, if you have salad olives, you don't have to go out and buy a jar of those Queen olives just to make yourself a martini. But again, you're going to be going with your traditional specs, the 5-to-1 ratio of alcohol, be it gin or vodka, and to 1 part of dry vermouth. And then we're going to add the brine to it. And actually, we're going to go equal parts brine to vermouth. So you're going to be doing, in this case, we're going to go, martini I'm going to specifically pour today is going to be 2.5 ounces of vodka, to 1/2 ounce of vermouth, to 1/2 ounce of brine. Now, I prefer my dirty martinis with vodka. There's nothing wrong with a gin dirty martini. Actually, the brine plays very nicely with the botanicals of the gin. But I personally like, and I don't know if it's just my formative years of drinking those Gibsons basically got me primed that that's the preferred way to have the combination of the brine, the combination of the olive with the vodka. I find it's got a little bit of a cleaner flavor, while I feel that there's too many competing flavors in the dirty gin martini. But again, that's my personal preference. Similarly, when I'm having a dirty martini, I like just a plain dirty martini. I don't like to go extra dirty, filthy, or anything like that. A few years back, I made batched cocktails for some coworkers for Christmas, and I knew some of them weren't very, I don't want to say they were into, but I assumed they weren't big into the martini scene, but I knew that they enjoyed a good dirty martini. So I made them these filthy martinis with my own homemade olive juice recipe, and I gotta say it was a unique flavor. It was a unique gift. I really enjoyed drinking it, but at the same time, it's just not. It had, and I always forget what the exact economic principle is, but it's the degrees of utility. The more you drink of it, the less you enjoy it. One was great. The second one was okay. After that, I was kind of like, let me get back to my regular martini. Martinis, I feel, martinis, Gibsons, when you go with the classic specs, I feel I can have, I don't recommend having more than 2 martinis, to be honest, but at the same time, it's not that I'm not enjoying them. I can have my 3rd martini, I can have my 4th martini, and I'm enjoying every single martini. I'm enjoying every aspect of that martini, as opposed to that filthy martini, as opposed to that extra dirty martini, where after that first one, I'm like, it's lost its novelty. So, again, talking about what we have, I'm using today Goodnight Loving Vodka. It's an American vodka made with Texas spring water. I've got my Desalinas dry vermouth, and then I have my Martini Pimento olives. Another keynote on olives, I'm just remembered on that one. I highly, highly recommend using pitted olives. Some people like having their pits in there. Some people like having that flavor of the unpitted olives. I think you need stuffed. You don't necessarily need stuffed olives, but you don't want to worry about something in there. You don't want a booby trap sitting in your cocktail, especially in your olive, where you have to slow down while you're eating your olive. You want to be able to just dive right in, because especially you're slugging down that cocktail, you're enjoying it. Last thing you want to worry about is there something in here? So let me go ahead and start building this. All right, so like I said before, we're going to start off with 2.5 ounces of vodka. Last time this distracted me, so I'm going to go ahead and close it now. We're going with 1/2 ounce of dry vermouth. And then we're actually going to pour 1/2 ounce of the olive brine right into the cocktail. So for the Gibson, remember I did just a bar spoon. Here, we're actually going to pour in 1/2 ounce. I made a little bit of a mess there, but I'll clean that up afterwards. And as always, we stir till chilled. Another shout out while I do the chilling here, or the stirring. I don't know if you can hear me over the ice. Actually, no, I'm going to stop. I'm going to let it chill, just in case. That's good. So another variation, I'm hoping to make it at some point in time, but another variation to the Dirty Martini, and specifically the blue cheese stuffed martini, is going to be the Milky Martini. And actually, I don't know if she found it somewhere, if it's her own invention, but Nadia at Food My Muse, that's her cocktail. What she does is she adds a cube. Again, those picks really come in handy. But she adds a crumble of blue cheese directly into the cocktail shaker, and when she shakes it up, it basically gives the cocktail a milky consistency. She doesn't use the dry vermouth, she uses the Bianco vermouth. Again, we're going to do a vermouth primer soon, just so we can kind of talk about the different vermouths. It's going to give it a little bit of a sweeter flavor than most dirty martinis have. But again, that's her cocktail. I haven't tried it yet. It's on my to-do list, and I'm hoping to make it for you guys at some point. But again, just want to give a shout out there. Like I said here, stirred it till chilled. It's ready to go. As you can see, again, we have that golden color, except this golden color is actually both because of the vermouth and the brine. Right off the bat, when I tasted it from the spoon, had a brinier flavor, which I'm not surprised. You know, here we have equal parts vermouth and brine. So let's go ahead and have a taste, and let me tell you about it. So this one, by comparison to the Gibson, this has a little bit of a harsher flavor. I'm going to say it is because of the brine. The brine almost overpowers the drink. Not to the point where it's not enjoyable, but remember, well, if you haven't seen my Gibson video, go check it out. But basically, just to sum up, the Gibson had 1 bar spoon as opposed to a half ounce of brine. So there, the vermouth really shined through with the brine, basically freshening it up, giving it a brighter flavor, adding a touch of salinity. While here, it's on equal footing, basically. You have the cleanness. You still have that cleanness of the vermouth, but it's providing, it's fighting for attention, is the best way I can describe it. You have the olive flavor. You taste olives right off the bat. Yeah, it's not bad. I'm not trying to downplay. This isn't my, like I said, this is one of these where this isn't something where I drink on the regular. My Paramost loves dirty martinis, and she actually likes that filthy martini, that extra dirty martini. So I would imagine she would really enjoy this. Although I don't know how she feels about the vermouth. But either way, I think she would probably enjoy this more than I'm enjoying it. This is still very good. Again, the fact that it's chilled, very cold, makes it easy to drink. But I'm not getting that. I'm definitely glad on this one that I decided that I stuck to my guns and I did it as a vodka martini, because I do feel that this would have been too much. I already feel that this is fighting for attention, you know, between the vermouth and the brine. I feel that if this would have been all three, if this would have been vermouth, brine, and gin, this would have been something where it would have been a bridge too far. It would have been too many flavors just competing for your attention. And like I said, it's good. Not my particular brand of vodka, but going back to the olives though. It's funny because I feel like eating the olive out of a martini, usually when you fish it out, it tastes like martini. Here, it tastes like olive. Here, it feels like I'm tasting, you know, I feel as if I would have pulled this right out of my olive jar. It's almost unnoticeable, mind you, it is alcoholic. I still feel the alcohol, but it doesn't have that same flavor. It doesn't have that cleanness, it doesn't have that crispness. It just feels like brine. Still delicious stuff. So far, just to recap, we've done the classic martini. We talked about the varying degrees of dryness and wetness in martinis. We did the Gibson, and today we did the Dirty Martini. Coming up, I'm going to do a vermouth primer. That's actually going to be my next episode. I have my personal martini. It's what I drink, what I make for myself. If I ever have friends over for martinis, that's the one I make for them. It's my preferred. And then I'm also going to show you a version of that to order in public, just because that drink is one where, you know, my martini is one where I have a hard time finding it in public, but this variation of it is something where you can find anywhere. From then, I'm going to pivot to, you know, that's basically my martini primer. That's going to be teaching you everything there is to know about the classic martini. From there, we're pivoting to the classic versions. You know, so we're going to talk about the Martinez, we're going to talk about the Manhattan, we're going to talk about the Alaska, the Vesper. From then, we're going to go to the new classics, the Espresso Martini, Lemon Drop Cosmo, that kind of stuff. And then from there on, we're going to branch out to other cocktails. Probably we're going to jump right to the Negroni family, just because those are some of my favorites. But we'll see. Other thing I'm planning on doing, I gotta get that support from the Paramost, but I'm thinking about trying to hit up local martini spots, maybe once a week, review the spots, review their offerings, and kind of show you, okay, this is what they have, this is, you know, maybe rate them, scale of 1 to 5, 1 to 10. We'll see how that works out, but that way you guys have an idea of where you can go. I'm local to South Florida, so I'll show you guys, you know, the South Florida spots, and then obviously whenever I get to travel, I'll try to find the great martinis abroad, or at least not in Florida, so you guys can know. Like I said before on one of my other episodes, martini travel is a thing. You know, there are all sorts of bars, both in the U.S. and internationally, where people travel to go have these famous martinis, and I would love to actually share them with you guys. So, but anyways, again, I'm gonna finish this off screen. I hope you guys are enjoying this as much as I am. I have a lot of plans for the channel, and yeah, cheers and have a great night.